Every species at the Galactic Combat Academy had claws, armor, or psychic weapons, except humans. What we didn't realize was that Earth had already trained them by trying to kill them for millions of years. The first time I saw Jake Brennan walk through the reinforced doors of Threshold's 7th main hall, I honestly thought someone had sent us a civilian by mistake. My name is Veltar, and I have been documenting species integration at the Galaxy Combat Academy for the past 11 cycles. I have seen Kravinians crack steel with their bare claws. I have watched Safari variants manipulate gravity fields during sparring sessions. I have even witnessed a Thornback student accidentally impale 3 training dummies because he sneezed. But humans were new to our little collection of apex predators and warrior races, and let me tell you, they did not look the part. Jake stood maybe 6 feet tall, which is average for his species, apparently. Brown hair, brown eyes, medium build, nothing about him screamed danger. He wore the standard academy jumpsuit, carried a single-day duffel bag, and had this expression on his face that I can only describe as mildly interested, like he was touring a museum, not enrolling in the most prestigious combat institution in our own galaxy. I adjusted my data pad with my upper left hand while my lower right hand scratched notes. First human student, check. Appears physically unremarkable, check. Survival probability in first week training, questionable at best, check. Threshold 7 floated in neutral space, a massive station built specifically to house and train the galaxy's best warriors. We had students from 47 different species, each one representing the peak of their evolutionary development. The Kravinians brought their famous durability and strength, the Silicates brought their crystalline armor plating, the Vexnar brought their psychic combat abilities. Every species had something that made them dangerous, something that earned them a spot here. The humans brought, we were not entirely sure what they brought. Command had been very secretive about the whole thing. Earth had only made contact with the Galactic Council 3 years ago, and suddenly we were accepting their youth into our combat programs. It seemed rushed, foolish even. I had reviewed the biological data we had on humans. Fragile skeletal structure, thin skin that tears easily, no natural armor, no venom, no claws, no enhanced senses. They came from a planet with barely 1 standard gravity, 1.0. My homeworld has 2.3, and we are considered a medium gravity species. But orders were orders, and the Council wanted integration, so integration they would get. Jake walked past a group of Kravinian students who towered over him by at least 3 feet. They glanced down at him with barely concealed amusement. One of them, Thaximal, I would later learn his name very well actually, snorted. The sound came out like a boulder rolling down a mental health. Jake did not even look up. He just kept walking, dragging his bag behind him with one half a tiny thing. Thaximal called out in broken calm galactic, "You lost? Civilian quarters are 3 levels down." A few other students chittered and hissed with laughter. Different species, same cruel sense of humor. Jake stopped, turned slightly, gave Thaximal a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "Nope," he said simply, "right where I need to be." Then he continued walking, and I recorded the interaction with clinical detachment. Subject displays confidence despite obvious physical disadvantage, possible overcompensation for awareness of vulnerability. Prognosis remains poor. The Academy had seen hundreds of students wash out in their first month. Combat training here was not for the weak. We did not coddle. We did not have hold back. You either adapted or you went home. Sometimes you went home in pieces, but that was what the medical regeneration tanks were for. I gave Jake Brennan maybe 2 weeks before he requested a transfer. Turns out, I was wrong about a lot of things. The cafeteria incident happened on day 4. 4 days. That was all it took for everything we thought we knew to get violently rearranged. I was sitting 3 tables away documenting feeding habits of the Silicate students when I heard Thaximal's voice booming across the dining hall again. The Kravinian had apparently decided that Jake was his new favorite target for entertainment, and let me tell you, a crew of Kravinians do not do subtle.
Picture a creature that evolution designed specifically to kill things and survive everything. 8 feet tall, covered in overlapping plates of natural armor that could deflect most energy weapons. 4 arms, each one capable of lifting half a tub. A jaw structure that could bite through titanium alloy. Kravinians came from a planet where everything wanted to eat everything else, and they had clawed their way to the top of that particular food chain through sheer bloody-minded durability. Thaximal was big, even for a Kravinian, and he had spent the last 4 days making Jake's life miserable. Small things at first, knocking Jake's tray out of his hands, blocking doorways, making loud comments about fragile little DeathWorldlers who did not belong here, the usual bully routine, just scaled up to interstellar proportions. Jake had ignored all of it, every single incident. He just cleaned up the mess, went around the obstacle, kept his head down. I had noted this behavior with approval. The human understood his limitations. Smart. Except, as I was about to learn, I had completely misread the situation. Soft skin, Thaximal bellowed, his translator unit making his words echo across the cafeteria. I'm talking to you. Jake was sitting alone, eating something brown and vaguely concerning from Earth's cuisine selection. He did not look up, just kept eating. Thaximal stomped over. Each footfall made the floor plates vibrate. He reached down with one of his massive claws and grabbed Jake's tray, lifting it up and tilting it. Food splattered across the table and onto Jake's jumpsuit. Oops, Thaximal said, his lispless mouth pulling back to show rows of serrated teeth. Clumsy me. The cafeteria had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. This was a moment. You could feel it in the air. The new student, the weak one, was being tested. He would either submit or he would be destroyed. Those were the only 2 options we had seen play out hundreds of times before. Jake stood up slowly. He still was shorter than Thaximal by more than 2 feet, still looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over, still had that same mild, almost bored expression on his face. That was my lunch, Jake said quietly. So Thaximal leaned down, bringing his face close to Jake's. What are you going to do about it, little mammal? I adjusted my datapad to record. This was either going to be a quick submission or a brutal lesson in why humans did not belong at combat academies. Either way, documentation was important. Jake sighed. Actually sighed, like this whole thing was just mildly inconvenient. I'm going to ask you once to apologize and get me a new tray, Jake said. The cafeteria erupted in various species-specific sounds of amusement. Even I felt my mandibles twitch. The human had to be joking. Thaximal laughed, a sound like gravel in a processing unit. Or what? Jake's expression did not change. Or I'll make you apologize. That was when Thaximal made his mistake. He reached out with one massive claw to shove Jake backward, to put the little human in his place, to end this farce. Jake moved. I do not have words adequate to describe what happened next, but I will try. One moment Thaximal was reaching forward. The next moment Jake's fist was buried in the Kravinian armored faceplate with a sound like a shuttle crash. Not a slap, not a push, a full-force closed-fist punch that traveled maybe 8 inches and carried behind it every single pound of force that a Humyan DeathWorld muscles could generate. Thaximal's head had snapped back so hard I heard his neck vertebrae crack. His body followed. All 8 feet and 600 pounds of apex predator lifted completely off the ground and sent flying backward through the air. He hit a table 10 feet away, smashed through it, and slid another 5 feet before stopping in a crumpled heap of twitching limbs and shattered armor plating. The sound of the impact echoed off the walls. Then silence. Complete, absolute, suffocating silence. Jake stood there, fist extended, knuckles not even bruised. He looked down at Thaximal, then at his own fist, then back at the unconscious Kravinian. Huh, he said mildly. I actually held back. My datapad slipped from my upper hand and clattered on the floor. Around the cafeteria, students from 47 different species all had the exact same expression, the universal look of beings who had just realized they had catastrophically miscalculated something very, very important. A Vexnar student near me whispered something in their native tongue. My translator rendered it as, "What in the burning void was that?" I did not have an answer. Jake calmly walked over to the food dispensers and got himself a new tray. Nobody moved to stop him. The medical bay descended in controlled chaos approximately 4 minutes after the punch. I followed the emergency response team, datapad clutched in all 4 hands, scientific curiosity overriding my self-preservation. 3 med techs, 2 silicate orderlies, and 1 very concerned physician named Crow Voke were already swarming around Faximil's unconscious body when I arrived. "Get me a bone regenerator," Crow Voke snapped, his tentacles moving in agitated patterns. "And someone find out what hit him. Feels like he argued with a cargo shuttle." "It was a human," one of the orderlies offered helpfully. Crow Voke stopped mid-examination. All 6 of his eye stalks swiveled toward the orderly. "Repeat that?" "A human punched him, sir. Once. Just a